Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I frequently pass by a gas station that is located relatively close to my house, and it has been very interesting in the past 2 weeks to observe the changes in the gasoline prices as seen from that one gas station. On Monday of last week, the price for which 1 gallon of gasoline sold was $3.56. On Monday of this week, we saw the price rise to $3.66 per gallon. This morning, on my way to work, I observed that the price had increased all the way to $3.76. And when I came back from work in the afternoon, I saw that that same gas station had increased the price by 2 cents to $3.78. So in short, from last Monday to this Thursday, the price of gasoline measured at that station increased from $3.56 to $3.78. That's an increase of 6.2% in about a week and a half. And just today, the price increased by 0.5%. Now, of course, the natural question to arise from this is what caused the increase? And for me, the answer in this particular case is very evident. And the answer, of course, is that the US sanctions on Iran, recently imposed with the intention of impoverishing Iran's government and central bank by preventing exports of Iranian oil. Those sanctions are the cause of the gasoline price increases that American consumers are having to suffer now. And if Obama and the Republicans are trying to convince the American people that, well, they can finally work together and extend a payroll tax cut and bring a little bit more money into the pockets of ordinary Americans by not taking as much of it, well, the amount of the gasoline price increase is going to pretty much wipe out those savings for a large fraction of Americans who drive any appreciable distance. And it seems that when we study the effects of economic sanctions, this point is very often missed. That is, economic sanctions don't just harm the innocent civilians of the country at which they are directed. They also harm, in no less egregious a fashion, the innocent civilians of the country whose government has imposed those sanctions. Simple economics can explain that it is indeed the Iranian sanctions that have resulted in these gasoline price increases. Because think about this. Iran is a supplier of oil on the world market. By preventing the export of that Iranian oil, the sanctions artificially reduce the supply of oil. At the same time, demand for the products into which oil is refined, including gasoline, does not decline. It has remained at the level it would have been at were there no sanctions. So with demand not changing, supply decreasing, what happens to the price? The price necessarily goes up. And it is very interesting because had this occurred by any different means, there would have been public outrage, and there would have been outrage about it on the part of our politicians. Let's suppose that the Iranian government had sent its naval force to blockade American ports and prevent shipments of oil from anywhere in the world from coming in to the United States. But it wasn't a particularly successful blockade, so most of the oil still got through. Enough of the oil, however, didn't get through, so that the price increased by about 6.2% over the course of a week and a half. What would people in the United States and their politicians think about that? They would consider it an act of war by Iran against the United States. Now, let's pose a different scenario. What if some treasonous US admiral decided to rebel, and he took control of a few ships and positioned them in strategic places to block access to several US ports? So quite a bit of the oil didn't get in, most of it still got in, but enough didn't get in that the price increased by 6.2% within a week and a half. What would the American people think of that? What would their politicians think of that? How long do you think it would take before those same politicians authorized a massive military crackdown against this hypothetical rebellious admiral? But the effects in those two scenarios of an Iranian blockade and treason by someone within the US Navy are exactly the same as the effects of the sanctions that the United States federal government has imposed on Iran. That is to say, the American people are worse off because there is a reduced supply of gasoline, and as a result of that reduced supply, there is a higher price, which innocent American civilians have to pay. So it's not just Iranian civilians that are suffering as a result of these sanctions, though their lifestyles are definitely being devastated, and that devastation is leading them to increasingly resent the United States and its government, the exact opposite of the outcome that is desirable. No, it is also Americans who are suffering as a result of these sanctions. I think it is a correct characterization to say that sanctions are an act of war. Sanctions are an act of war against one's own people. And simple economics, simple common sense, should convince any reasonable person of that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope nothing worse comes out of this, though with the set of politicians we have in Washington, D.C., one can never be confident.